Okay, Goku Vinod 2850 says, "Hey bro, can you elaborate more on making a studio and registering it and other things involved in making a studio? Currently developing a mini game puzzle story game inspired from a short hike in Unreal Engine 5 and want to get started into marketing. Any info would be great as I'm college third year student and don't know how much about registering a game development studio and what steps need to be taken, etc. Yeah, all the best to your game. Thank you, Google. So yeah, I mean, in this video we will be covering about although I did like briefly cover in the previous video on Devlog 12 beyond game development, but this will be a little bit more detail, not too much into the process, but like more of a deeper outline, in between an overview and getting into details about how to start register a game studio in India. Well, registering a game studio in India is just like registering anything else, like any other game company, any other company, whatever sort of a business that you have. If you Google for the types of company registrations in India, you will come across a list which has like around 10 to 8 different types of company registrations. But ultimately, it just comes down to these three that are valid for most of the game developers. That would be like a sole proprietorship, limited liability company, that is famously known as LLP, and a private limited company. This is, I mean, if you're probably starting a video game studio, I think these are the three categories that you'll be looking into. Starting out a game studio is just like a startup as usual. So you can look at doing a startup India's free course. Startup India has a free course on how to go about doing a startup and navigating around a startup. So I'll link the course in the description of this video. You can just go through the video. It'll briefly explain you the things that are required. But other than that, there would be like a lot of stuff that would not be valid to a game studio, which I'll try to cut that down in this video. But if you want to have an in-depth understanding of what exactly it takes to like set up a company in general in India, probably finish that course. So out of all these three game studios, let's say let's assume you're a solo developer, which a lot of people nowadays are. A lot of devs are doing that. Ever since Eric Barone made Stardew Valley on his own, everybody wanted to be a solo developer. I'm not gonna lie, even at one point of time I wanted to be something like him because I was so much inspired from story of Stardew Valley. If you want to go the solo development route, something like a sole proprietorship would be valid for you. Bear in mind, when you go for a sole proprietorship, you're completely responsible. Like think of it this way, like your company is your separate entity and you're a separate individual. In sole proprietorship, that doesn't work that way. You're responsible for whatever you are. So the disadvantages with sole proprietorship is you probably would be a little bit difficult for you to raise funds. If you are someone who's looking to raise funds for your development costs or like development in general, I would suggest you guys to go for a private limited company because that is what a lot of investors are okay with investing in. I've also seen a lot of LLP registered companies, that is a limited liability. People who register the company as limited liability also get funding, but I think as far as it goes, I think you do need to have some sort of registration which is a little bit above sole proprietorship. There is like more skin in the game for more people. Like there's a lot of more different stakeholders rather than just depending on one person. So I think anything beyond and anything which involves more people in account beyond sole proprietorship would make sense. If you want to register a private limited company, I suggest you guys at least have two directors. Let's say you're the one who's taking an executive decision. You can have one of your family members as the second director, but like they're in most cases they're not doing anything. They're just there to like so that the paperwork is done. and that's completely fine. I've done the same. A lot of game studios have done the same, where you have a second person who has some sort of um, stake in the company, but they're really not doing much, which is completely fine, because if you're the one who's running the show, but like you are also hiring people, then I think this kind of model makes sense. Now, what are the other mandatory things apart from just registration? Is that you do also have to get a website. I'll also get into a lot of costs. This video will be more of, it's going to be here and there. I'm not going to just focus on talk about something and then go back and then go back and forth about those topics. A lot of CAs in general in India don't really understand what exactly a game studio is. A lot of people in general don't understand how you make money from video games, especially the older generation, or like those who are never played games in their life. So it's a little bit difficult for them to understand what kind of business you're doing. So this is very obvious in the process, where you go back and forth with your chartered accountant while your company is registered. You do have to like point out things. I think my memorandum of association talks about me selling games on different platforms. You need to do the same. Just talk to your CA, make them understand what your business model is. Like if you're selling the game on Steam or on consoles, for the sake of simplicity, you can just like take your laptop, explain them what Steam is, like how Steam is priced, and like once the game is sold, how much money that you make. I think those kind of explanations would make a lot of sense for them to understand the amount of options that there are, like the sort of business it is. It'll help them to understand and probably get registered. As far as I know, I think even game development falls something similar, like IT. There is nothing specific that you can register as game development. It probably falls under information technology, and then I think you have to go that route. Now, coming to the costs of how much does it cost to set up a game development studio in India. Now, it depends upon what kind of registration you're going for. I personally had gone for a private limited, which had costed me between 15 to 25. The reason why I'm saying 15 to 25 is there were like some sort of additional paperwork that I required. Probably you might not require, because everyone's case depends on different things. In one case, you probably are ready to raise funds, so I think you require some sort of additional paperwork. In another case, if you are bootstrapped, you don't require that kind of paperwork to be done. So you can just like register a few basics and get go ahead. You will also do a lot of wasted effort, which you have to consider. What I mean by wasted effort is, let's say it's a standard to get your GST done, but which doesn't make sense unless you're making money. You don't have to get your GST up and running, because it's some sort of a headache for you and your chartered accountant to like probably audit it. So I would suggest like once you start making sales, only then getting a GST, things like that. I think overall anyone should be looking somewhere around 30 to 50,000 for just getting your company registered. This also includes not only the registration cost, but also probably like to get your website up and running, so that people know that you exist and then you have a website. A lot of startups, this is not mandatory, but I think in today's day and age, everybody would like to have a website to look at. You'll also have, so once this is set up, you'll also have to open a current account, which once you register your company, they do get your information, because it's private. Although it's called private limited, your incorporation information is probably somehow passed down to these banks and like other startup related, company related businesses to like help you out, or like help out their business to assist you in some sort of a way. So you do have to open a current account, which is different from savings account. For those who have a background in business, like your family might run a shop or something, you might understand what a current account is. Mostly those who are a salaried person would only understand what a savings account is. I personally had no idea what a current account is, because I never owned it. Once I started a game company, then I understood what exactly a current account is. So you have to open a current account, and you also have to convince the branch manager why exactly you require a current account. So our branch manager had to visit my house. I had to explain him what exactly I do, because they really don't understand what exactly happens in a game studio, because a lot of people don't play games. and then I had to walk him through what exactly I do. He had looked at my setup, looked at my house, and yeah, and that's how he was convinced. You also have to have certain amount of money in your bank account. I think you can also get started with as basic as 25,000, which has to be there. But if you're starting off, I think for a year you can get away with having zero balance. I'm not sure about that, but I think some banks allow you, give that relaxation of having 25,000 flat, or you can have zero balance unless for a year, and then start making money. So these are the things that are involved in getting your current account set up. So all these things vary from banks to banks, what kind of company setup you have, and all those things. uh, yeah, so in a nutshell, I think these are the things that require to make a game studio. But other than that, there are certain suggestions that I want to do. Like if you're a student who's just like 18 years old, who's learned a game engine and is like enthusiastic about starting a game studio, well, all power to you. There is no right or wrong in any way, but bear in mind there are certain realities. Let's say if you want to raise funds, investors usually look at what kind of background are you coming from. Like, are you have you actively worked in the games industry for substantial years, so that they have some sort of faith or some sort of trust upon you, because you've done this before and you're doing it right now. So these things count. If you're working alone, you might understand yourself and you might have confidence to complete a project. But let's say you have bootstrapped money and you want to hire people, I suggest you understand how game production works rather than only game development, how game production works. Take a little bit of classes in game production. I would highly encourage anyone to at least work at 1 or 2 years in a game studio to at least understand how a game studio functions, so that you can replicate if you open up your own studio. But these are just like suggestions. They really don't have to be that way. I've known people who have never worked at a game studio and still have opened up a studio doing really well. I've known people who worked at many studios, opened up a studio, didn't go well. So there is no right or wrong way to do stuff. It's only if you figure out stuff well, and if that keeps you going, it's all power to you. Well, that's all in this video that I have to say. If you like what I do here, if you have any other questions related to game studios or making games in general, feel free to put them in the comment section. And yeah, thanks for watching.